Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how you can export your files so you can release your songs. When I say export, I mean take all the audio that's in your session and have it bounce down into one audio file, for example an MP3. So one thing I'd like to mention quickly first is when you're exporting your files, you might want to increase the overall volume of your track. So if you've opened up a default session with FL Studio, it will have already installed the Fruity limiter. If you haven't, simply go to the drop down arrow at the left, go to Dynamics and choose Fruity limiter. So if I set this gain back to 0, which is its default setting, the song will be at this volume, which is absolutely fine. But if you're sending it off to someone to listen to, you might want it to be at a similar volume to the music they often listen to. So one thing you can do really quickly is this. Just increase the gain. So when doing so, make sure that you don't increase it so much that it's limiting the signal too much. I'll show you what that means. So if I set it back to 0 by alt-clicking on the dial and play the song, we can see that line there was constant. Now, as we increase the gain, we can see this top white line has marks where it seems to be coming downwards. And that is just showing us that the limiter is reducing the signal. So what you want to do is turn up the gain, so when it gets to the loudest part of the song, there is only a very small amount of gain reduction, which is displayed by the marks on the graph. Okay, there is a small amount of gain reduction there, so I've now got my track to a nice loud level. Be careful when you do this, because if you limit it too much, it will crush the audio and will damage the sound of your song. It doesn't matter if there's no gain reduction, if it's at a volume that you're happy with. So that's just one little thing I'd do before you export your files. One thing to mention, if you are sending your songs off to a professional mastering engineer, don't do this process. Now, once your song is at an appropriate level, you're ready to export it. First thing I do is zoom out so you can see the start and the end of your track. Now, I'll create a cycle region going from the end of your song all the way to the start. You can do this by holding Command on a Mac or Control on Windows by clicking and dragging on the timeline ruler at the top of the playlist window. Now, go up to File, go down to Export, and here we have a few different audio file types. If you're exporting a song and you want a high quality file, I would choose WAV, but if you want a lower quality file, which takes up less memory, you can go for MP3. There are these other two audio file types, FLAC and OGG, and there's a few more options, but for just purely exporting your audio, I would use WAV or MP3. So for this example, I'm going to choose WAV file. Now, what you can do is save what you'd like the file to be called. Here, I'm just going to leave it as FL Studio Project 7 Mix 6. Then hit save. And it takes us to this dialog box where it gives us a few more options. So we can choose the file type again, but here I'm going to leave it as WAV. Now under WAV bit depth, I would choose 24-bit. This will give you a very high quality audio file. 16-bit is standard for CD, but 24-bit is slightly better. If you're exporting this to release, I would always make sure you've chosen stereo file. Now, the last thing you might want to think about changing is this resampling quality. 32-point sync should be good enough, but if you wanted the highest quality, you could go up to one of these here, but most of the time 32-point sync will be fine. Now, everything else I will leave as is, and all you do is press start. It will go through this process here. It may take a longer amount of time if you've got a slower computer, or less time if there's not as much going on in your session. FL Studio will make that noise once the file has been exported. Then it should be where you'd saved it. I saved my audio file on the desktop. So now if I go to my desktop, the file is here. If you wanted to send your song to a friend over the internet, you could export your file as a WAV or an MP3 file so anyone can listen to it even if they don't have FL Studio. Thanks for watching.